Everyone's talking about VO2 max right now. It's all over fitness apps, running watches, health podcasts. Everywhere you look, someone's telling you to raise your VO2 max if you want to perform better, live longer, and unlock some next level of athletic potential. And they're not wrong. A higher VO2 max genuinely does all of those things. But here's what nobody is telling you. And I mean nobody, not the apps, not the influencers, not even most coaches, the way the majority of people are. Actually, training to improve it is almost completely backwards. And not only is it backwards, it's actively working against them in ways that won't show up for weeks or even months. So if you've been doing VO2 max training and wondering why the needle isn't moving the way you expected, this video is going to be a turning point for you. And if you're just getting started and you want to do this right from day one, you're in exactly the right place. What I'm about to share took me a long time to fully piece together, pulling from real sports science, real coaching methodology, and real conversations with people who've been through this exact frustration and come out the other side with results that genuinely surprised them. If you're new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button because we go this deep every single week and you'll want to be around for what's coming. All right, let's get into it. Here's what I want you to understand before anything else. VO2 max isn't just a fitness metric. It's not just a number on your Garmin or your Apple Watch that tells you how fit you are. It's actually one of the strongest predictors of long-term health, longevity, and quality of life that researchers have ever found. Studies have shown that low VO2 max is a stronger predictor of early death than smoking, high blood pressure, or diabetes. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just about running a faster 5K. This is about how long you live and how well you live while you're here. So the stakes are real, which means the way you train to improve it actually matters. A lot. And the truth is, most of the popular advice floating around out there on this topic is either incomplete, oversimplified, or just flat out wrong in ways that sound convincing enough to follow for months before you realize they're not working. Before I get into the first big truth, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Your city, your state, wherever you are in the world. I'm always genuinely curious about who's in this community, and it makes making these videos feel a lot less like talking into a void. All right, first truth. The first thing nobody tells you about VO2 max training is that the intensity you think is high enough almost certainly isn't. And I want to be really specific about this because it's the root of so much frustration and wasted effort. When most people hear train to improve your VO2 max, they think run harder than usual, push yourself more than a normal run. And so they go out and run at what feels like a pretty solid effort, breathing hard, working, definitely not comfortable. And they call that their VO2 max training. Maybe they even do it as a continuous run, like a tempo effort, for 20 or 30 minutes. Feels hard, feels productive, must be working, right? Here's the problem. Your body only enters true VO2 max territory, the zone where the actual cardiovascular adaptations happen, when your heart rate is at roughly 90 to 100% of its maximum, not 75%, not 80%, not even 85%, which is where most people's hard runs actually land. We're talking about the top end, the zone where holding a conversation is completely impossible, where your body is operating at near maximum oxygen demand, where every system is firing at capacity. Most people have never actually trained there. They've trained near it, around it, somewhere in the general neighborhood of it, but not actually there. And here's why this matters so much. The adaptations that raise your VO2 max, the changes to your heart stroke volume, the improvements in how your muscles extract and use oxygen, the development of your cardiovascular system's overall ceiling, those adaptations are specifically triggered by time spent at that very top end, not time spent near it, time spent at it. Your body is remarkably precise in this way. It responds to the specific demand you place on it. A moderate demand produces a moderate response. A near maximum demand produces near maximum adaptation. There's no way to trick the system. So when people do weeks of hard training and wonder why their VO2 max isn't improving, it's usually because they were never actually at VO2 max intensity to begin with. They were training their tempo system, their lactate threshold, their general aerobic fitness, all valuable things, but not the specific system they thought they were targeting. It's like thinking you're training your biceps, but the exercise you're doing is actually hitting your forearms. You're working, you're getting some benefit, but you're not getting the result you came for. Now here's the part that makes this tricky. Training at true VO2 max intensity is genuinely uncomfortable. Not just, this is hard, uncomfortable. More like, every instinct in my body is telling me to stop, uncomfortable. If your intervals feel manageable, if you finish each one thinking, okay, that was tough, but I'm fine, there's a real chance you're not quite there. True VO2 max intervals should feel like a controlled emergency. You should finish each one and need a moment to collect yourself. Not because you destroyed yourself, we'll get to pacing in a minute, but because you were genuinely operating at the edge of what your aerobic system can do. Be honest with yourself right now. When you've done intervals or hard workouts in the past, were you actually pushing into that zone? Or were you working hard by your standards without necessarily hitting the physiological ceiling? There's no judgment here. Most people haven't. But knowing this is the first step to actually changing it. All right, second truth. And this one tends to surprise people even more than the first one because it sounds counterproductive on the surface. More VO2 max training is not better. More is actually one of the fastest ways to make it worse. Here's what happens when people discover that high-intensity intervals are the key to improving VO2 max. They get excited. They start doing intervals 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. Every session is hard. Every session is pushing into that top zone. They're motivated, they're consistent, and for about 2 weeks, they might even feel like they're making progress. Then something shifts. The sessions start feeling harder, not easier. Recovery takes longer. Their resting heart rate creeps up. Sleep quality drops. Workouts that used to feel manageable start feeling like mountains. And their performance, instead of improving, starts going flat or even declining. This is overreaching, and it happens to people who care deeply about their training far more than it happens to people who are casual about it, because it requires consistency and motivation to get there. Ironically, the same qualities that are supposed to drive progress. Here's what's happening physiologically. True high-intensity training, the kind that actually targets VO2 max, is enormously taxing on your central nervous system. It's not just your legs that are tired. Your brain, your hormonal system, your immune function, your sleep architecture, all of it takes a hit after a genuine maximal effort session. And these systems don't recover in 24 hours. For most people, full recovery from a real high-intensity session takes 48 to 72 hours, maybe more, depending on overall training load, sleep, nutrition, and stress levels from the rest of life. When you stack hard sessions too, close together before full recovery happens, you're essentially trying to build on a foundation that's still wet. Nothing sticks. Worse, you're accumulating stress faster than your body can adapt to it, and eventually the whole system starts to break down. This is why the research on VO2 max training is surprisingly consistent. 2, maybe 3 high-intensity sessions per week is the ceiling for most people. 2 is often better. 1 really well-executed session per week still produces meaningful gains. But beyond 2 to 3, you're in diminishing returns territory at best and active regression territory at worst. The counterintuitive truth is that the rest of your training week, the easy, low-intensity running that most people either skip or accidentally turn into medium-hard efforts, is what allows your VO2 max intervals to actually work. Without adequate easy days, genuinely easy days, your hard days aren't hard in the productive sense. They're just hard in the damaging sense. Think about this like charging a phone. Your hard sessions are the demanding apps running in the foreground. They do the visible work. They produce the outcomes you see. But if you never plug in and charge, if you never give your system a real recovery period, eventually the battery can't run anything properly. The hard sessions only produce results if the recovery between them is real. And for most people who are serious about their training, true recovery feels uncomfortably passive. It feels like doing too little, but it is training. Some of the most important training you can do. What does your recovery look like right now? Seriously, think about the days between your hard sessions. Are they genuinely easy? Or are they moderate efforts that feel like a compromise between rest and progress? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely love to know, because this is the thing that separates people who see consistent improvement from people who plateau despite working incredibly hard. Third truth. And I want you to really pay attention here, because this one is the most nuanced and in some ways the most powerful of everything I'm going to share today. Your VO2 max has a genetic ceiling, but almost nobody is anywhere near it. And that gap between where most people are and where they could be is massive. I'm talking about years of potential improvement sitting completely untapped. Not because of genetics, not because of age, not because of anything that's outside your control, but because of a single structural flaw in how the training is designed. Here's what I mean. VO2 max training is not just about intensity, it's about something called time at intensity. Specifically, time spent at or near VO2 max during a single session. And this is the variable that most training programs, even well-designed ones, consistently underestimate. You can do intervals at the right intensity, you can recover properly between sessions, and you can still be leaving most of your potential gains on the table if the total time you spend in that top zone per session is too short. Research from Norway, from a group of coaches and scientists who've produced some of the most dominant endurance athletes in history, consistently points to about 20 to 25 minutes of total time at or near VO2 max per session as the sweet spot for driving meaningful adaptation. That's not 20 to 25 minutes of total workout time. That's 20 to 25 minutes of actual time spent at 90 to 100% of maximum effort. When you add up most people's interval sessions, 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off, maybe 4 or 5 sets, they're often accumulating 12 to 15 minutes of real work. Close, but not quite at the threshold where adaptation really kicks into high gear. Now, this doesn't mean you need to make your intervals longer. There are multiple ways to reach that 20+ minute target. You can do more intervals at the same length. You can structure the session with a slightly different format. Longer blocks, shorter rest, more total sets. The specific format matters less than the cumulative time spent at the right intensity. And the key insight here is that if you've been doing intervals and seeing modest results, it might not be that you're doing them wrong. It might just be that you need a bit more total time at the top end per session. Let me give you a concrete example of what this looks like in practice. Picture 2 runners doing interval sessions. Runner A does 5 4-minute intervals at true high intensity with 3 minutes of easy jogging between each one. Total time at high intensity, 20 minutes. Runner B does 4 3-minute intervals at the same intensity with equal rest. Total time at high intensity, 12 minutes. Both sessions feel hard. Both sessions take about the same total time, including warm-up and cool-down. But Runner A is consistently getting 40% more stimulus per session than Runner B. Over 12 weeks of training, that gap compounds into a meaningfully different outcome. Faster improvement, higher ceiling reached, more durable fitness built. This is not a small detail. This is the kind of structural difference that separates runners who improve steadily every training cycle from runners who feel like they're grinding and barely moving the needle. And almost nobody talks about it in those specific terms. Now there's a catch here. And I want to be honest about it, because ignoring this catch is how people get hurt. Getting to 20+ minutes at maximum intensity per session is something you build toward, not something you do on day one. If you're new to this style of training or you're coming back from a break, starting with 12 to 15 minutes of total high-intensity work is absolutely appropriate. The goal is to progress over weeks and months toward that higher volume at quality. Rushing it is the exact mistake that leads to injury, burnout, and all the problems we talked about. Earlier, think about it like building a house. You don't start with the roof. You start with the foundation, then the walls, then the roof. The progression has to be sequential and patient. But if you know where you're building toward, 20+ minutes of real, high-quality, genuinely at-the-ceiling effort, twice a week, with true recovery in between, you have a roadmap that actually leads somewhere. Here's something I want to add that ties all 3 of these truths together, because there's a common thread running through all of them that I think is worth naming directly. The reason these truths stay hidden isn't because the information doesn't exist. Sports scientists have understood this stuff for decades. The problem is that the correct approach to VO2 max training doesn't feel as satisfying in the short term as the incorrect approach. It doesn't feel productive to run easy on your recovery days. It doesn't feel like enough to only do 2 hard sessions per week. It doesn't feel like progress when your first few weeks of properly structured training feel more controlled and less exhausting than what you were doing before. Our brains are wired to equate effort with progress. Tired equals working. Sore equals improving. More equals better. And all of those instincts, while well-meaning, are specifically wrong when it comes to this kind of training. The truth about VO2 max development is that it rewards precision over volume, quality over quantity, and patience over grinding. And those are things our culture doesn't celebrate very loudly, which is exactly why the people who figure this out tend to improve so dramatically and so consistently. While the majority of motivated, hard-working athletes spin their wheels wondering what they're missing the truth. And now you have it. Has anything I've said today clicked for you in a way that explains something you've been experiencing in your own training? I really want to hear it. Whether it's the intensity piece, the recovery piece, the time at intensity piece, whatever landed hardest for you personally, tell me in the comments. These conversations genuinely help me understand what to dig into next. Let me bring this home because I want to leave you with something you can actually use starting this week. Not a vague concept, but a clear picture of what this looks like in practice. 2 sessions per week. Genuinely easy running on the other days. In your 2 hard sessions, work at a real, true, near maximum effort. The kind where conversation is completely off the table and finishing each interval requires focus and will. Aim for 4 to 6 intervals of 3 to 5 minutes each. Build toward 20 total minutes of work per session over several weeks. Rest between intervals for roughly equal time to your work period. Keep your easy days genuinely easy. If it's not conversational, it's not easy enough. That's the whole framework. It fits on a single index card. It doesn't require an expensive coach or a fancy lab test or a GPS watch that costs more than your phone. It requires understanding, consistency, and the discipline to do less on the days when doing less is the right call, which is actually harder for most committed athletes than going hard. What I hope you take away from this isn't just a training protocol. I hope you take away a different relationship with this process, one where you trust the science over the feeling, where you measure success by outcomes instead of by how exhausted you are, and where you understand that the athletes making the biggest gains are often the ones who look the least destroyed walking out of the gym. If this video shifted something for you, if you're walking away with a genuinely different understanding of how to approach this, subscribe to the channel. This is exactly the kind of content we make every single week. Real information explained clearly for people who actually care about getting better and want to understand why things work, not just what to do. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And because this video focused on the truths about VO2 max training, I put together a separate video that goes step by step through exactly how to build your full training week around these 2 hard sessions. How to structure each day, how to know when you're recovered enough to push again, and how to progress your training over a full 12-week cycle. It's the natural continuation of everything we covered today, and I think you'll find it just as clarifying. It's linked on screen right now. Last thing, what's the one thing from this video that surprised you most? The intensity piece? The recovery limits? The time at intensity idea? I'm genuinely curious which one hit hardest. Leave it below. I'll be in the comments.